The stars had always seemed peaceful to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what might be waiting for them out there. They imagined friendly aliens, amazing technology, and wonderful adventures among the stars. They were wrong. The year was 2247. Humanity had finally done it. After centuries of trying, they had built ships that could travel faster than light. They had established their first colony beyond the solar system, a small settlement on a green world they named New Eden, for the first time in history. Humans were truly a spacefaring species. The celebration lasted exactly 9 days. On the 10th day, something appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. At first, the scientists thought it was a glitch in their sensors. Then they thought it was an asteroid field. Then they saw the truth, and their blood ran cold. 300 warships hung in space like a wall of death. Each one was larger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest of them could have swallowed Earth's entire fleet and still had room for more. They did not come in peace. They came with a message. The transmission reached every screen on Earth at the same moment. Every phone, every computer, every television showed the same image. A creature made of living crystal stood in a chamber of pure white light. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. "I am Ambassador Keth Verrill of the Dominion," it said. "I speak for the Conclave of 12, the rightful rulers of this galaxy. You have entered our space without permission. You will now receive the standard integration protocol." The document that followed was long, but its meaning was simple. Humanity had two choices. They could surrender everything and become slaves, or they could die. The terms were clear. Humanity must give up all their warships. They must accept conclave rule over Earth and all human colonies. They must provide 40% of their population as workers for the conclave's mines and factories. They must never build weapons again. "You have 72 hours to accept," Keth Verrill said. 23 species have refused before you. None of them exist anymore. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across the world, there was silence. Then there was chaos. Earth's United Council met within the hour. The chamber was filled with the most powerful people on the planet. Presidents and prime ministers sat beside generals and scientists. All of them were afraid. General Morrison spoke first. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars during his lifetime. He knew when a fight could be won. "We cannot win this," he said simply. "Our entire fleet is 12 ships. They have 300. Their smallest vessel outguns our largest. If we fight, we die. Every single one of us." The scientists agreed. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had spent her life studying physics and weapons. She had helped build humanity's first interstellar engines. Now she looked broken. "Their technology is millions of years ahead of ours," she said. "We cannot even understand how their weapons work. Fighting them would be like throwing stones at a hurricane." One by one, the leaders of Earth spoke. Most of them said the same thing. Surrender was terrible, but extinction was worse. At least as slaves, humanity would survive. They could wait. They could hope. Maybe someday things would change. Then Elena Vasquez stood up. She was the Secretary General of the United Council. She was 63 years old, with silver hair and dark eyes that had seen too much suffering. She had been born in Spain, in a village that no longer existed. The floods had taken it when she was 7 years old. She had lost her parents, her home, and everything she knew. She had rebuilt her life from nothing. She had helped millions of other refugees do the same. She had risen from poverty to become the most powerful human being alive. And she had not done it by giving up. "I have a question," she said quietly. The room fell silent. "Has anyone ever asked what happens if we say no, but we do not fight?" The council members looked at each other in confusion. General Morrison frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. "If we refuse, they will attack us." "Yes," Vasquez said. "They will try to destroy us. But what if we do not give them a war? What if we give them something else instead? What could we possibly give them?" Dr. Tanaka asked. Vasquez smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had survived the impossible before. A problem, she said. A problem they have never faced. You see, they expect us to do one of two things. We will either kneel or we will fight. Every species before us has done one or the other, but humans are different. We have a third option. The council waited. Outside, the alien fleet hung in the darkness of space, counting down the hours until humanity's answer was due. I want to meet with their ambassador, Vasquez said. Not to surrender. Not to declare war. I want to give them a warning of our own. A warning. General Morrison almost laughed. We have 12 ships. What could we possibly warn them about? Vasquez looked at him with those dark eyes that had seen floods and famines and wars. Eyes that had watched the world end and had refused to close. Why'd I warn them about us, she said. About what humans really are. About what happens when you threaten a species that has already lost everything and survived. They think they know what we are. They are wrong. And I am going to tell them the truth. The council voted. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Alina Vasquez would go to the alien flagship. She would speak for all of humanity. That night, she stood at the window of her office and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 300 warships waited to destroy her world. She was not afraid. She had been afraid before, many times. When the waters rose over her village. When she walked alone through ruined cities. When she buried friends who had given up hope, but she had learned something in all those years of suffering. Fear was not the enemy. Despair was... And Alina Vasquez had never despaired in her life. Tomorrow, she would face the rulers of the galaxy. She would stand alone before creatures that had destroyed entire civilizations. And she would tell them something that no one had ever told them before. She would tell them to be afraid of humanity. The shuttle launched at dawn. Earth watched in silence as their Secretary-General flew toward the enemy fleet. No one knew what she would say. No one knew if she would survive. But somewhere in their hearts, humans began to hope. Because that was what humans did. Even in the darkest moments, even facing impossible odds, they hoped. And sometimes, hope was the most dangerous weapon of all. The galaxy faced humans for the first time. We gave them one warning part. The warning: the shuttle was small. The alien flagship was not. Alina Vasquez watched through the window as her tiny vessel approached the massive warship. It was like a fly approaching a mountain. The flagship stretched 4 kilometers in every direction. Its surface was covered with weapons that could burn entire cities to ash. Lights glowed along its hull like the eyes of some ancient beast. She was alone. She had refused to bring guards or advisors. This was her message to deliver. She would deliver it herself. The shuttle passed through a wall of blue light and entered. A landing bay larger than most sports stadiums. Alien vessels of a dozen different designs filled the space. Creatures she had never imagined walked between them. Some had too many legs. Some had no legs at all. Some floated. Some crawled. All of them stopped to stare at the small human woman stepping out of her primitive ship. Vasquez wore simple clothes. A plain gray suit. Comfortable shoes. No jewelry, no medals, no symbols of power. She had chosen this outfit carefully. She wanted them to see a human being, not a politician. 2 guards approached her. They were Vorthax, according to her briefing files. They looked like insects the size of bears, with armored shells and claws that could cut through steel. Their compound eyes studied her with cold curiosity. "The Conclave will see you now," one of them clicked. "Follow." They led her through corridors of white metal and blue light. Other aliens watched from doorways and balconies. Word had spread that a human was on board. Many of them had never seen a human before. They wanted to see what kind of creature would walk willingly into the heart of their enemy's power. They expected fear. They expected begging. They expected the same desperate look they had seen on 100 other species facing extinction. They did not expect Alina Vasquez. To walk like she owned the ship, the chamber of the Conclave was a perfect circle. 12 platforms floated in the air, each one holding a representative of the galaxy's ruling species. They surrounded Vasquez from all directions. There was nowhere to hide. That was the point. Ambassador Kethveril stood on the highest platform. His crystalline body caught the light and split it into rainbows. Behind him, the other representatives watched with expressions ranging from boredom to hunger. "I've come to accept our terms," Kethveril said. "It was not a question," Vasquez replied. Her voice was calm and clear. "I have come to give you a warning." Silence fell over the chamber. Then laughter. It started with the Vorthok's representative, a creature even larger than the guards. Its clicking laugh sounded like rocks tumbling down a hill. "A warning?" It said, Your entire species has 12 ships. We could destroy your world before your breakfast tomorrow. What could you possibly warn us about?" The Luminari representative drifted forward. It was made of pure energy, a cloud of light with no solid form. Its voice sounded like music. "The creature is confused," it said. "It does not understand its situation. This is common among short-lived species. They lack perspective." Vasquez waited. She let them laugh. She let them mock. When they were finished, she spoke again. "May I tell you a story?" The representatives looked at each other with amusement. Kethveril waved one crystalline arm. "Speak," he said. "We will grant you this small entertainment before you surrender." Vasquez nodded. She took a deep breath and began. 70,000 years ago, my species almost died. A massive volcano erupted and blocked out the sun. The world grew cold. Food disappeared. Our numbers dropped to fewer than 10,000 individuals. We should have gone extinct. She paused and looked around the chamber. We did not. We survived. We adapted. We grew strong again. Ah! The Luminari flickered with impatience. "Ancient history. Irrelevant." "Is it?" Vasquez asked. "Let me continue. 12,000 years ago, the last ice age ended. Floods covered huge parts of our world. Entire civilizations were wiped out in a single generation. Millions died. We should have collapsed back into chaos." She took a step forward. "We did not. We built new civilizations, better ones. We invented writing and mathematics and medicine." The Vorthok's representative clicked its claws together. "This is supposed to impress us?" "I am not trying to impress you," Vasquez said. "I am trying to explain something. Let me finish. 400 years ago, my people invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash of light. We pointed those weapons at each other. We came within minutes of burning our whole world to ash." She smiled grimly. "We chose peace. We chose to survive. And 80 years ago, when our planet's climate began to change and the oceans rose, we lost entire countries. Billions of people had to find new homes. Our old world died." Her voice grew stronger. "But we did not die with it. We rebuilt. We adapted. We became stronger than ever. And then we reached the stars." The chamber was silent now. No more laughter. No more mocking. "You have destroyed 23 species," Vasquez said. "That means you have met 23 peoples who had never faced extinction before, who had never lost everything, who had never been forced to start over from nothing." She looked directly at Ambassador Kethveril. "We are not like them. We have faced extinction again and again. We have lost everything more times than we can count, and we are still here. Do you understand what that means?" Kethveril's crystalline form shifted slightly. "Tell us." "It means we know something that no other species in your empire knows. We know how to survive. We know how to rebuild. We know how to start over with nothing and create something new." She began to walk in a slow circle, addressing each representative in turn. "If you attack Earth, you will kill many of us. But you will not kill all of us. We will scatter. We will run to every corner of this galaxy. We will hide on your worlds, in your stations, among your peoples. And we will teach them." "Teach them what?" the Luminari demanded. Vasquez stopped walking. She stood in the center of the chamber and raised her voice so every being present could hear. "We will teach them that the conclave can be defied. We will teach them that your rule is not forever. We will teach them what we learned through thousands of years of suffering, that empires fall, that tyrants die, that nothing lasts except the will to survive. The representatives stirred on their platforms. Something had changed in the room. The amusement was gone. In its place was something new, something that looked almost like doubt. You think your power makes you safe, Vasquez continued, but your power depends on fear. Everyone in your empire is afraid of you. That is the only thing holding it together. What happens when they stop being afraid? She pointed at the doorway where guards and servants from a dozen different conquered species were watching. What happens when they realize that a primitive species from a small planet refused to kneel? What happens when they start to hope? Ambassador Keth Farrell leaned forward. For the first time, his voice carried something other than contempt. You are threatening us, he said. You, with your 12 ships in your primitive world, you are threatening the Conclave. No, Vasquez said. I am warning you. There is a difference. A threat says what I will do to you. A warning says what will happen if you force my hand. She straightened her shoulders and spoke her final words. Attack Earth, and you will destroy a planet. But you will create something far more dangerous. You will create a symbol. A story that will spread across your empire like fire. The story of the species that said no. She paused. We are not afraid of you. And once your slaves see that we are not afraid, they will wonder why they should be afraid either. Is that really what you want? Is destroying one small planet worth the risk of losing everything? The chamber was absolutely silent. Every being present was staring at the small human woman, who had just told the rulers of the galaxy to be afraid of her. Ambassador Keth Farrell stood frozen on his platform. His crystalline body had stopped catching the light. He looked like a statue carved from ice. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Conclave of 12 had no idea what to say. The galaxy faced. Humans, for the first time, we gave them one warning. Part 3. The fracture. The word spread like fire through dry grass. Elena Vasquez did not know it. But her speech had been broadcast to the entire Conclave fleet. Every ship, every station, every corner of that massive armada had heard her words. The Conclave's communication systems were designed to let the rulers speak to everyone at once. They had never considered that someone might use those systems to plant seeds of rebellion. Within hours, everyone knew. The conquered peoples who served as workers and servants, the lesser species who crewed the warships, the slaves who built and maintained everything the Conclave owned. They had all heard what the human woman said. They had heard her say that she was not afraid. Vasquez sat in a small holding room aboard the flagship. The Conclave had not decided what to do with her yet. They had not expected her to refuse surrender. They had not expected her warning. They needed time to think. She waited in silence, wondering if she had just saved her world or doomed it. The door opened. A small creature slipped inside. It had 4 arms, gray skin, and large eyes that reflected the light like mirrors. It was barely taller than Vasquez's waist. Its whole body was trembling. Please, it whispered. Please do not report me. I am not supposed to be here. Vasquez looked at the creature with curiosity, not fear. She had learned long ago that size meant nothing when it came to courage. Who are you? She asked softly. My name is Yura. I am Kethari. I work in the engine rooms. The creature glanced at the door nervously. I watched your speech. Everyone watched your speech. And what did you think of it? Yura's large eyes filled with something that might have been tears. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper so quiet that Vasquez had to lean in to hear. Is it true? What you said about your people? They really faced extinction? Many times? And they survived? Vasquez nodded. It is true. Every word. Yura made a small sound in her throat. It might have been a sob. Her 4 hands wrapped around each other like she was trying to hold herself together. My people were conquered 6,000 years ago, she said. I have never seen my home world. None of us have. We are born on ships and stations. We work until we die. That is all we have ever known. She looked up at Vasquez with those huge, shining eyes. We have stories. Old stories, passed down in secret. They say that once, long ago, our ancestors were free. They had their own world, their own cities, their own lives, but those are just stories. No one believes them anymore. Vasquez felt something twist in her chest. She had seen suffering in her life. She had seen refugees with nothing, families torn apart, people who had lost everything. But this was different. This was a species that had been slaves so long they had forgotten what freedom meant. Those stories are not just stories, she said gently. They are memories. Your ancestors were free, and that means you can be free again. Yura shook her head. The Conclave is too powerful. No one can fight them. We have tried. Many species have tried over the centuries. They always fail. The Conclave crushes them and makes the punishment so terrible that no one else dares to try. I know, Vasquez said. That is why I did not come here to fight. Yura looked confused. Then what did you come here to do? Vasquez smiled. It was a warm smile, the kind she had given to frightened children in refugee camps long ago. I came here to remind everyone of something they have forgotten. Fear is not the only force in the universe. There is something stronger. What? Hope. The word hung in the air between them. Yura stared at Vasquez like she was seeing something impossible, like she was looking at a creature from legend. Hope, she repeated slowly. I have heard that word. I do not think I have ever really understood what it means. It means believing that things can change, Vasquez said. It means looking at the darkness and deciding to search for light anyway. It means refusing to accept that the way things are is the way things must always be. Yura was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. There was something new in it, something small but growing. The Conclave believes you will surrender, she said. They are arguing about it right now. The Dominion wants to destroy your world. As an example, the Luminari say it is not worth the resources. The Vorthax want to keep you as gladiators for their fighting pits. Vasquez felt her stomach clench, but she kept her face calm. What do you think they will decide? I do not know. But I know something else. Yura leaned closer. There are others like me. Many others. We have been passing messages between species for centuries. In secret, carefully, waiting for what? We did not know. We just knew we were waiting for something. Some sign. Some reason to believe that resistance was possible. Yura's eyes were bright now, almost feverish. I think you might be that sign. She reached into her clothing and pulled out a small device. It looked ancient, covered in scratches, and worn smooth by countless hands. This is a communicator. It connects to our network. The network the Conclave does not know about. 7 species use it. We share information. We help each other when we can. She pressed the device into Vasquez's hands. They want to meet you. The representatives of the 7 species. They saw your speech. They have questions. Vasquez looked at the device. It was warm from Yura's body heat. Such a small thing. Such a fragile link to something that might change everything. Where would this meeting happen? She asked. There is a cargo bay on deck 47. It is scheduled for maintenance tomorrow. No one will be there. I can bring you. That is dangerous for you. If you are caught helping me, ... Yura straightened up. For a moment she did not look small at all. She looked like someone who had made a decision and would not be moved from it. Your speech asked what happens when slaves stop being afraid, she said. I think I am ready to find out. Vasquez felt tears prick at her eyes. She had come here hoping to buy humanity some time. She had hoped to confuse the Conclave, make them hesitate, give Earth a few more days to prepare. She had never imagined this. She had never imagined that her words would reach people who had been waiting to hear them for thousands of years. I will come, she said. Tell them, I will come, Yura nodded. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. You asked what I thought of your speech, she said. I will tell you. For my entire life, I have believed that hope was a lie. A trick to make slaves work harder. A poison that only brought more pain. She looked back at Vasquez with those huge, shining eyes. I think I was wrong. I think hope might be real. And I think you brought it here." Then she was gone, slipping through the door like a shadow. Vasquez sat alone in the holding room, clutching the small communicator in her hands. Through the walls, she could hear the hum of the massive engines that powered the flagship. Somewhere above her, the rulers of the galaxy were deciding the fate of her species. But somewhere below her, something else was happening. Something the Conclave had never expected. Something they had spent 10,000 years making sure could never happen. The slaves were beginning to hope. And hope, as Vasquez knew better than anyone, was the one thing that tyrants could never truly kill. They could crush rebellions. They could burn worlds. They could make examples so terrible that no one dared to speak of resistance. But they could not stop people from hoping. They could not reach inside hearts and minds and tear out the small, stubborn flame that refused to die. Tomorrow, she would meet with representatives of 7 enslaved species. She did not know what she would say to them. She did not know what they would ask. But she knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy faced humans for the first time. We gave them one warning, Part 4. The choice the cargo bay was cold and dark. Emergency lights cast long shadows across stacks of metal containers and coils of cables. The air smelled of machine oil and something else, something older. Fear, perhaps? Or maybe hope. Alina Vasquez stood in the center of the bay, with Yura at her side. Around them, 7 figures emerged from the shadows. Each one was different. Each one represented a species that had been conquered, enslaved, and broken by the Conclave. The first was a Cathari like Yura, but older, with scars across his face. He introduced himself as Elder Moth, the keeper of his people's secret histories. The second was a Solari, a creature that looked like flowing water given solid form. Her name was Whisper, and she had not seen her homeworld in 400 years. The third was a Morthok, tall and thin with skin like tree bark. He was called Root, and his voice cracked when he spoke, because he had not used it freely in decades. The fourth was a being of pure shadow, a Vecna, who called herself Silence. Her people had been used as spies and assassins by the Conclave. They were forbidden to speak their own language. The fifth was a Garati, massive and strong, with arms thick as tree trunks. His name was Stone, and his people had built the Conclave's greatest monuments. They had never been allowed to build anything for themselves. The sixth was a Relary, small and delicate, with wings too damaged to fly. She was called Broken Song, and she represented a species that had once filled the galaxy with music. Now they were silent. The seventh was the most surprising. A young Dominion crystal barely formed, flickering with uncertain light. He called himself Fragment, and he was the child of slaves who had been discarded as defective because he could not maintain the perfect harmony his species demanded. 7 species, 7 histories of suffering, 7 reasons to be afraid, but they had come anyway. Elder Moth spoke first. His voice was rough, like stones grinding together. "We watched your speech, human. We have watched many speeches over the centuries. Leaders who promised to save us, warriors who swore to free us. They all failed. They all died. Their species were erased from history." He looked at her with eyes that had seen too much pain. "Why should we believe you are any different?" Vasquez took a breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on what she said next. "I am not different," she said. "I am not stronger than those leaders. I am not braver than those warriors. If you are looking for a savior, I am not her." The representatives shifted uneasily. This was not what they had expected to hear. "Then why did you come?" Whisper asked. Her voice sounded like rain falling on leaves. "Why did you give that speech? Why did you refuse to surrender?" "Because surrender would not have saved my people," Vasquez said, "and fighting would have destroyed us. So I chose a third option. I chose to tell the truth." "What truth?" Stone rumbled. "The truth that the Conclave's power is built on fear. The truth that fear only works as long as everyone stays afraid. The truth that once one species refuses to kneel, the illusion is broken forever." She looked around at each of them. "I cannot free you. No one can free you except yourselves. But I can stand beside you. I can show you that you are not alone. And I can help you see something that the Conclave has tried very hard to make you forget. What is that? Silence whispered. Her voice was like wind through empty halls. That you are not weak. You are not helpless. You are not broken. Vasquez's voice grew stronger. You've built their ships. You grow their food. You maintain their systems. You are the hands and minds that keep their empire running. Without you, they have nothing. Root made a sound that might have been a bitter laugh. They have weapons. They have armies. They have ships that can burn worlds. Yes, Vasquez agreed. They have all those things, and they need every single one of them. Do you know why? She waited. No one answered. Because they are afraid, she said. They are afraid of you. All those weapons, all those armies, all those ships, they exist because the Conclave knows the truth. They know that if you ever stopped being afraid, if you ever stood together, their empire would fall. The words hung in the air like sparks from a fire. Elder Moth stepped forward. His scarred face was tight with emotion. My people have dreamed of freedom for 6,000 years, he said. Generation after generation, we have passed down stories. We have kept our language alive in secret. We have hoped even when hope seemed foolish. He looked at Vasquez with eyes full of tears. If we do this, if we stand with you, many of us will die. The Conclave will make examples. They will be brutal. They will be thorough. I know, Vasquez said. I cannot promise you that you will survive. I cannot promise you victory. The only thing I can promise is this. She reached out and took his hand. It was warm and rough, the hand of someone who had worked his entire life. You will never fight alone again. The cargo bay was silent. 7 representatives of 7 enslaved species looked at the small human woman, who had walked into the heart of their enemy's power and refused to bow. Broken Song spoke for the first time. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried through the silence like a bell. What do you want us to do? Vasquez smiled. I do not want you to fight. Not the way the Conclave expects. Fighting their ships would be suicide. But there is another way. She released Elder Moth's hand and addressed them all. Tomorrow, the deadline expires. The Conclave expects humanity to surrender or die. Instead, I am going to send a message. Not just to Earth, to every corner of this galaxy. What message? Fragment asked. His crystal form flickered with nervous light. 3 words, Vasquez said. We do not kneel. She let that sink in for a moment. And when that message reaches the slaves and servants across the Conclave's empire, I want them to see something else. I want them to see that they are not alone, that the conquered peoples of this galaxy stand together. How? Stone demanded. We cannot fight. We have no weapons. You do not need weapons, Vasquez said. You have something better. You have the power to stop working. Understanding dawned on their faces. Whisper's form rippled with something that looked like excitement. A strike, she said. You want us to simply ... stop? No violence? No weapons. Just refusal. The Conclave cannot run without you. Their ships need crews. Their factories need workers. Their entire empire is built on your labor. She spread her hands. What happens when all of you, every conquered species, simply sits down and refuses to move? They cannot kill everyone. They need you too much. And every moment they hesitate, every moment they fail to crush the rebellion immediately, more people will see that resistance is possible.
Alright.
Moth was trembling. Not with fear, with something else. Something that had been buried deep inside him for his entire life, waiting for this moment. Can this work? He asked. Can it really work? I do not know, Vasquez admitted. It has worked before, on my world. When people refuse to obey unjust laws, when workers refused to support corrupt systems, when ordinary people stood together and said no. She looked around the cargo bay at the 7 representatives of 7 enslaved peoples. It will not be easy. It will not be fast. And I cannot guarantee that we will win. But I can tell you this. The alternative is to keep living as you have lived, to keep hoping for a savior who will never come, to keep waiting for a miracle that will never happen." Her voice softened. "Or you can choose to save yourselves. Together." The silence stretched out. Vasquez could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then Elder Moth raised his scarred face and spoke the words that would change the galaxy. "We will stand with you, human. Whatever comes, we will stand with you." One by one, the others nodded. Whisper, Root, Silence, Stone, Broken Song, and finally, flickering with nervous light, Fragment, 7 species. Thousands of years of slavery, generations of fear and suffering and broken hope, and now, for the first time, a choice. Vasquez looked at them with tears in her eyes. "Then let us begin." Tomorrow the deadline would expire. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn what humanity really was. And tomorrow, the Conclave would face something they had never faced before. Not an enemy they could destroy. Not a rebellion they could crush. But a simple truth, spoken by billions of voices across 1,000 worlds: we do not kneel. The galaxy faced humans for the first time. We gave them one warning. Part 5. The dawn. The 72 hours were over. Across the galaxy, billions of beings held their breath. On Earth, families gathered in shelters and looked up at the sky. On the Conclave flagship, the rulers of 1,000 worlds prepared to give the order that would end humanity forever. Ambassador Kethveril stood at the command center, his crystalline form blazing with cold light. Around him, the representatives of the Conclave watched screens showing the human homeworld. Such a small planet, such a fragile species. They would burn for their defiance. "Send the final demand," Kethveril ordered. "Tell them this is their last chance." The message went out. Every screen on Earth showed the same image. The ambassador of the Dominion, surrounded by the power of the galaxy's rulers. "Humans," Kethveril announced, "your time is ended. Surrender now, or watch your world die." For a long moment, nothing happened. The Conclave waited. Earth was silent. Then a response came. Not from Earth's governments. Not from their military. It came from a small shuttle, still docked in the flagship's landing bay. Alina Vasquez appeared on every screen in the galaxy. She stood alone, dressed in the same simple gray suit she had worn to face the Conclave. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. "People of the galaxy," she said, "my name is Alina Vasquez. I speak for humanity. And I have a message for everyone who is listening." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "We do not kneel." Kethveril made a sound of disgust. "Destroy the shuttle. Destroy her world. End this." But before the order could be carried out, something strange began to happen. Reports started flooding in from across the fleet. Engine crews were not responding. Navigation officers had left their posts. Weapon systems were going offline one by one. "What is happening?" the Vorthax representative demanded. "Why are the ships losing power?" The answer came from the flagship's own corridors. Cathari workers were sitting down in the hallways and refusing to move. Solari servants had stopped serving. Morthoak technicians had walked away from their stations, and all of them, every single one, was repeating the same 3 words: "We do not kneel." Kethveril stared at the screens in disbelief. This was impossible. The conquered species had been broken for millennia. They did not resist. They did not refuse. They obeyed. "Use the military crews," he commanded. "Our own people. Make them fire the weapons." "We are trying," an aide reported, his voice shaking. "But the weapon systems require Garati operators. They have all stopped working." "Then use manual override." "The override systems were built by Relary engineers. They have locked us out," more reports came in. Not just from the fleet. From across the entire Conclave territory, on the Dominion homeworld, Vecna shadows had disappeared from their spy networks. The Conclave's intelligence system was blind. On the Luminary stations, power plants maintained by Cathari workers had gone silent. Cities were going dark. On the Vorthax military bases, food supplies prepared by Solari cooks had stopped arriving. Armies could not march on empty stomachs. Everywhere, on every world and station and ship, the conquered peoples of the galaxy had simply stopped. Not fighting, not dying, just refusing to participate any longer. The conclave chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives screamed at each other. Some demanded immediate punishment. Others argued that mass executions would only make things worse. The Luminari wanted to negotiate. The Vorthax wanted blood, but none of them could agree, and while they argued, more systems failed. More workers sat down. More voices joined the growing chorus. We do not kneel. In her shuttle, Alina Vasquez watched the galaxy change. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. She had not known if this would work. She had hoped, but hope was not certainty. Now she knew. Yura appeared beside her, her forearms wrapped around herself with joy. It is happening, she whispered. It is really happening. Yes, Vasquez said. It is. The door opened, and Elder Moth entered, followed by the other representatives. They had all taken enormous risks to be here. They had all chosen to believe that change was possible. The conclave is falling apart, Elder Moth reported. They cannot agree on what to do. Some want to surrender. Others want to fight to the death, but they cannot fight without us. What happens now? Broken Song asked. Her voice was stronger than before. She was remembering what it felt like to sing. Vasquez thought about that question. She thought about all the years of struggle that lay ahead. The conclave would not give up easily. There would be setbacks. There would be tragedies. The road to freedom was never smooth, but the first step had been taken. And that step could never be untaken, she said. We build something new. Together. 1 year later, Alina Vasquez stood on a platform in the center of the First Galactic Council of Free Peoples. The chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from every species that had chosen freedom. Beside her stood Yura, who had become the first Cathari ambassador in 6,000 years. Beside Yura stood Elder Moth, who had written a new constitution for his people based on the histories they had kept alive through generations of slavery. Around them sat representatives of dozens of species. Some had been slaves for millennia. Some had been conquered just centuries ago. Some had never been conquered at all, but had watched the conclave with fear, knowing their turn might come. All of them were here now. All of them were free. The old conclave had shattered like glass. The Dominion had retreated to their homeworld, divided by civil war. The Luminari had offered peace and trade. The Vorthax had simply disappeared into the depths of space, too proud to accept a galaxy they no longer ruled. It was not a perfect ending. Many had died in the chaos of liberation. Old hatreds still burned between species that had been turned against each other by their masters. The work of building a truly free galaxy had only just begun, but it had begun. That was what mattered. Vasquez stepped forward to address the council. Her hair was whiter now, her face more lined. The past year had been the hardest of her life, but her eyes still held the same fire that had burned in a refugee camp 70 years ago. 1 year ago, she said, the conclave gave humanity a warning. They told us to kneel or die. They expected us to do what every other species had done before us, to surrender, to break, to accept that their power was too great to challenge. She looked around the chamber at the faces of 100 different species. But we did not kneel. Not because we were stronger than them. Not because we had better weapons or bigger ships. We did not kneel because we knew something that they had forgotten. Her voice rose, filling the great hall. We knew that power built on fear can never last. We knew that empires that rule through terror always fall. We knew that the greatest force in the universe is not weapons or armies or threats. It is the simple, stubborn refusal to give up hope. She extended her hands to the assembly. The conclave believed that they could break any species. They were wrong. They broke bodies. They broke worlds. But they never broke the thing that matters most. They never broke the spirit that makes us reach for the stars. She turned to look at Yura, at Elder Moth, at all the beings who had risked everything to stand beside her. Today, we are no longer slaves and masters. We are no longer conquerors and conquered. Today, we are what we were always meant to be. Free peoples, standing together, building a future that belongs to all of us. The chamber erupted in cheers and cries and songs in 100 different languages. Species that had never spoken to each other embraced. Enemies who had been set against each other by the conclave shook hands and made peace. Yura reached out and took Vasquez's hand. Her large eyes were full of tears. "You did this," she said. "You changed everything." Vasquez shook her head. "No, we did this. All of us. I just reminded everyone what they had forgotten. The power was always there. In you. In every being who refused to let hope die." She looked out at the celebrating assembly and smiled. "From this day forward, the galaxy will remember what humanity taught them. We were never dangerous because we could destroy. We were dangerous because we could inspire." She squeezed Yura's hand. "The conclave gave us one warning. We gave them one back. And in the end, we all chose hope. That is a choice that can never be undone. That is a choice that changes everything." Outside the great chamber, 1,000 stars burned in the darkness of space. Each one was a sun. Each sun might have worlds. Each world might have peoples who dreamed of freedom, and now, for the first time in millennia, those dreams had a chance to come true. The galaxy had faced humans for the first time. Humans had given them one warning, and that warning had set them free.